Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I know this was supposed to be Monday's video, but now it's Wednesday's video. Reason? I actually just took a day off. After painting this for the YouTube Artist Collective, I needed a break. So I took one. But now it's time to jump back in the saddle. And by jumping back in the saddle, I mean actually jumping back in time because I did this painting before I did the YouTube Artist Collective. But I'm just getting around to talking about it now. Some of you may know that my most popular art mediums that I enjoy using are watercolor and Copic markers. But there are so many different types of art supplies out there that I'm always excited when I have a chance to try out something new. And in today's video, as you can tell by the title of the video, I'm trying out gouache. According to Google, gouache and watercolor are very similar, though gouache has a higher pigment so that it is more opaque. I don't know why I haven't gotten into gouache before this. I will give you a slight disclaimer. I supposedly have used gouache before, but I think the set that I had purchased was a really cheap set because I was not all that thrilled about it. I'm excited to say that this set was fabulous and I loved using it. So while I talk about my gouache experience, let's get into the painting so we can see some of the creation. As I begin creating this, I want to give a big shout out to SmartArt Box for sponsoring today's video and supplying all the art supplies that I need to create this piece. For those of you who don't know, SmartArt is a monthly art subscription box, an art experience box. They pick an art medium or an art style or type and make that the focus of each month's box. For me, I enjoy it because SmartArt Box helps me see outside the box in the art world and try something new. Sometimes I really like it, and sometimes I find it a bit of a challenge, like the oil paints. If you'd like more information about SmartArt Box, I will leave a link in the description box below where you can go and check out their website. The first thing I needed to do was to gather some inspiration, and as you can see, I'm painting mushrooms. I actually got my inspiration from photographs that I took over 10 years ago when, for some reason, a magical spring happened and we had all these great mushrooms popping up everywhere, but not just any mushrooms. No, these were the red mushrooms with little white spots like the Alice in Wonderland mushrooms. They're fabulous. So I decided that I would paint some of these little mushrooms. Now for those of you who are thinking, okay, so gouache and watercolor are really similar, so what's the big deal about gouache? With watercolor, you couldn't really do this. This is an actual canvas and watercolor does not work well on canvas. It needs something to absorb into it. I find that gouache is best described as a good in between watercolor and acrylic paint. If you use more water in the gouache, it tends to react more like watercolor paint, but if you use it more just straight from the tube, then it reacts like acrylic. The thing that I love the best about this set, aside from the just pops of color that you can get from this, is that they are water soluble. I hate wasting art supplies. So with acrylic paint, if I fill my palette up with paint and I don't use it all and it dries, that's it. I can peel the acrylic paint off and reuse the palette, but I can't reuse the acrylic paint. With gouache, I can reactivate it with water. When I start designing a picture, I think of all the different elements that I want to have in that picture. Wind, water, earth, fire. Okay, not those kinds of elements. When I talk about elements, I mean different things that you're going to have in your painting. Let's take, for example, this piece from the YouTube Artist Collective. So this is the Lady of the Lake, and there are a ton of elements. There's the actual lady, the sword, her hair, the seaweed, the water, the lighting, the fish, the shadows. There's a lot of stuff in that painting. That's a lot of elements. The more elements you add into a painting or artwork, the more time it's going to take to create your piece. I knew I was in a bit of a time crunch, so I didn't want to put a ton of elements in there. So for the background, instead of doing a detailed background, I did kind of a impressionistic background where I just dabbled in different colors of paint. And I love being able to layer this gouache on top of each other. With watercolor, it just kind of bleeds into each other and gradients out. But with gouache, if you apply it the right way, you can get your yellows to sit right on top of really dark browns or blues or greens, and they still remain a bright, vibrant yellow. Once I finished the background, then I went ahead and started putting in the actual mushrooms. If I was doing this in watercolor, I'd have to really protect my white areas because it's really hard to pull out darker colors off of your paper. But with gouache, because it's opaque, in theory, you should be able to lay a dark color down and put a light color on top. and I was really going to test this out with the white speckles that were going to be on top of the red mushrooms. So I colored in the full caps of the mushrooms, and then after that dried, I would go back in and add those dots. And it turned out fabulous. It's really different from my normal style, which tends to be a little bit more illustrated, a little bit more cartoony. For this one, I tried to make it a bit more realistic by adding shadows and really eliminating any kind of outlining. Though I do find they were highly inspired by the mushrooms from Fantasia. In the end, this piece is hanging on the wall right next to my oil painting of a lemon tree, which I also did from a SmartArt Box. If you want to see that video, I'll put it as a link at the end of this video. Wrapping this up, I really enjoyed gouache, and I think it's going to fit perfectly in with all my mixed medias. I'm really curious to find out what mediums are your favorite, so let me know in the comment section below. Plus, how many of you guys have been noticing the secret poll questions in the last few videos? They've been so much fun to think up poll questions and to ask you. If there's a poll question that you would like me to ask in an upcoming video, put that in the comment section below as well. Before I close this video, I want to quickly remind you guys that I am doing the character drawing challenge where I'm drawing your original characters, and I'm so excited about how many that you guys have already submitted. But if you have an original character or a drawing that you'd like to see drawn in my style, make sure to check out the video that I posted about that last week. I'll also leave a link to that as well, so you can check out all the information and details. But I am working on the next video right now, so submit those pictures. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and as always, God bless you guys, and we'll see you in another art video. Bye-bye!